Welcome to the Mountain Valley News Pigskin Preview. I'm Monk Blevins. This is Logan Wright, and we're back with you this week to talk a little high school football. Logan, we're 8 weeks in now, so what do you see in the what's going on?
Well, we're finally getting a look at everything starting together as far as playoff berths and who's going to be seated where. There's still a couple openings where some teams have to play each other for a certain spot, but more or less we're starting to realize who's actually able to playoffs if they win out.
Yeah. What do you know? Looking at the schedule and looking at the teams, I tell you, it's pretty easy to. In our area, Fife is by far the best team. I would think in this area. I tell you what, they have since the Cleveland game, and we mention this every week. They've been rolling. I mean, this team is. They're clicking on all cylinders. It's hard to pick out any flaws with Fife. And, the other team that I think is playing really well right now is Fort Payne. And, we talk a lot about them. And, Desmond Turner, man, he just keeps rolling the yards up. And, he is something else. And so, it's an exciting time. And, we're getting down to the wire now. There's still a lot to play for. Playoff spots, and we talk about the region with Sylvania and Plainview and New Hope, and that one's kind of starting to come together, but there's still 3 teams that's got a shot at that last spot, and how that'll fall out. We got Plainview and Geraldine and Pisgah all has a shot to get in the playoffs, so it's going to be exciting to see what happens. So let's go ahead and start with our first game. Our first game we're going to be talking about is Collinsville versus Gaston. Collinsville comes in after beating Ider 27-6. Man, I tell you what, we talk a lot about Collinsville and, their massive offensive line, but, man, this Collinsville team seems to be clicking right now. So what's your thoughts on Collinsville?
Well, first off, that is a great win over a very good Ider team. That actually, they are our Mountain Valley News Team of the Week for that win, so congratulations to them.
Absolutely.
We always talk about how well prepared Ider is and how well their offense clicks. Well, Collinsville pretty much shut them down last week.
Yeah. Yeah, Ernie Willingham has done a great job at Collinsville, and Collinsville's sitting at 5-2 right now, and they're 3-1 in the region. And this is a huge game this week. The Gaston has a great football team, and they beat West End, I think 44-36 last week. So this should be a great game, and Collinsville will be traveling down to Gaston this week. So this is going to be an exciting game. Dallas Reed had another great game for Collinsville. He ran for 67 yards, and then he also had 72 yards in receptions and 2 touchdowns. Trent Nash had 17 yards and a touchdown, and the Blakely kid had 14 yards and a touchdown. So, the one thing we've talked about, this Collinsville team can run the football, but they also can pass. The Jones kid has done a great job, passing the ball. So, so what's your thoughts? What do you think?
About how big their line is, and I feel like their rushing game is really what's opened up their passing game. That teams prepare more for their rushing game, which they should, because we talk about that size. I would say they're the biggest team around here, and I don't think that's an overstatement at all. Just if you look at the sheer size of their line, they don't have we used to call them baby tackles. You have the one kid that's sort of younger and he's having to play up, but they don't. They are massive, and they are using it to their advantage, and they're running behind them.
Yeah, this is going to be a great game, and if Collinsville wins this game, they pretty much assure themselves of a playoff berth. And I tell you, this Collinsville team has probably been one of the surprises. And again, Coach Willingham has done a great job with them, and they started the season and. It's hard for them to hang on to the football, and I think they've eliminated some of those turnovers, and they're playing much better right now. So that's going to be a great game to watch. Our next game we want to talk about is Gardendale at Fort Payne. Fort Payne comes in. Man, they went over to Scottsboro last week, and they put a whipping on Scottsboro 38-21, and they're setting the top of the region right now. So what's your thoughts on Fort Payne? And
that offense is simply amazing. They have Turner at running back. That kid can scoot. He's probably the fastest running back around here, and I'd even go as far as to say he's faster than any of the running backs at Fife, and that's saying something. But their defense is playing well too. They've managed to keep everybody healthy this year, and that shows in their season record because they're getting a lot more wins because they don't have so many injuries. And I think they'll have a good playoff run if they can manage to keep everyone healthy.
Yeah, this is going to be a big game for them this week. Gardendale, they traveled down to Gardendale last year and got upset in that game. So, they've got a little revenge on their mind this week. They're sitting at 6-1 and 5-0 in the region, and they've got a chance actually this week or next week. If depending on what Southside and Scottsburg game how that shakes out this week, they'll be playing for the area championship against Southside next week possibly. So that's going to be a great game. Talking about Desmond Turner, he rushed for 207 yards and had 3 touchdowns. So that puts him at 1,414 yards on the season. So man, he is having a great year. And we talk about their running game, but a lot of times we don't talk much about passing. Tyler Ellis was 8 for 11 for 142 yards and throw 2 touchdowns. So, this team is starting to click on all cylinders right now, and Coach Ellis has done a great job there. And I tell you, this Fort Payne team, I think they can go a long way in the playoffs. So we'll see how that shakes out. But next week playing Southside. Gardendale will be a big game this week, but then next week they've got a huge region game with Southside. So it's going to be exciting, to see what happens. Our next game, we got Plainview traveling to Brindley Mountain. Plainview comes in, and boy, I tell you what, that Plainview Sylvania game was, man, it was something else, wasn't it? The weather was terrible, and it was just kind of neither offense seemed to get anything going in the first 3 quarters. And I think you covered that game. So tell us what you saw in that Plainview Sylvania game.
I was at the sideline on that game, and like you said, the weather was horrible. I heard somebody say on the sidelines it was Forrest Gump rain because it was raining sideways. I was mud up to my ankles, and they played through it. But like you said, neither offense had an opportunity to get anything going. I will say I'm proud of this Plainview team because they have showed up. A lot of people wrote them off at the start of the season, and they're in the spot to maybe make a potential playoff berth if they keep playing like they are.
Yeah, absolutely. They're sitting at 4-3, and actually they've got a 4-game winning streak. They started the season at 0-3, and since that time, man, they have found ways to win. It's not always pretty, but they keep finding ways to win. They're sitting at 3-2 in the region, so this is a big week coming up for them. I think if they win this week, they've got a really good shot, depending on how the other games shake out, but they've got a shot of getting in the playoffs. And, probably after the first 3 weeks, if we'd have been sitting here talking about Plainview with a shot for the playoffs, people would have thought we were crazy. But, they've got a chance now, so it's going to be big. Our next game, we got White Plains. They'll be traveling to Crossville. Man, I tell you, Crossville is just, they're struggling. They're 0-7. They took a pretty good beating by Cherokee County last week. It was 49-10. But the thing, you look at the stats and you look at what they're doing, and at one time it was 7-0 in the second quarter. But they just can't get over that hump. They it's been so long since they won a football game. I think they forgot how to win. Maybe, I don't know. But they are struggling, and But I will say this week they've got a chance to win the football game. White Plains, I think, is sitting at 1-6, and so what's your thoughts on Crossville and what they need to do to get that first victory?
Well, you hate to see a program go this long without a win because I know that's got to be messing with those kids. It's got to be rough. But hopefully they'll get their offense started a little more. They've had a little bit of trouble on that side of the ball. I know they seem to keep games close in the first half, but other teams just sort of run away with it in the third and fourth quarter. But like you said, if they're going to win one, this will be the one. They're going to need to focus, and they're going to need to get the victory here because I know that town of Crossville wants one right now.
Oh, yeah, that would be huge. If they could get that first victory, they would be really excited. And, again, I think they've got a shot this week. And, hopefully – I know a lot of times when you 0-7 or 0-6 or whatever, it's hard to get up. You start thinking, okay, maybe I'm ready for basketball or whatever. But I'm telling you, if Crossville can get that victory, they've got some talent on that team, and they got a great coach, and they just need to win one. We talk about that a lot. It seems like when you get that first victory, then all of a sudden, man, you figure out what you need to do to win a football game. So that'll be a great game, and hopefully Crossville can pull out a victory this week, man. I'd love to see them get that first one. Our next game, we got Geraldine traveling to Sylvania, and this is going to be our Mountain Valley News game of the week. I tell you what, Geraldine, man, they were in a hard-nosed football game Friday night, and they beat Sandrock 9-7. And boy, I tell you what, this Geraldine team, they keep finding ways to win, and they're in the playoff picture. And so, what's your thoughts on this Plainview, or I'm sorry, Geraldine and Sylvania game?
This is definitely a need to win for Geraldine when we're talking about playoffs, because they're in a spot right now where they could go either way. They could make the playoffs or they could not, and it's really going to depend on how they play the rest of the season. This is going to have to be a definite win. We talk about Sylvania. They had a really hard loss against Plainview Friday night. I think there was no score until 55 seconds left in the ball game. And Sam Mueller, I was standing in the corner of the end zone and I got to see this. Sam went on a sweep and dove over a guy into the end zone for the only touchdown of the night. So, Sylvania is going to be looking to bounce back from that because that's a rival week and you hate to lose to rivals. But I think Sylvania's going to make this a tough ball game for them.
Oh, absolutely. Sylvania's defense played great Friday night against Plainview. They held Plainview to like 70 total yards till that last drive when Plainview scored. So, their defense kept them in the game the whole time. And, Sylvania, they actually drove down inside the 10-yard line and had a chance to go ahead of Plainview on a field goal, and they missed that. But I tell you what, Sylvania kicks that field goal. That might have been a different ball game Friday night. You never know, how those things will work out. But, this is going to be a great football game this week. Stephen Hood for Geraldine, he carried the ball 13 times for 113 yards. And I tell you, he is, he's a tough running back. And this Geraldine team is they've got a very talented football team. They're sitting right now. They've got a record 5-2, and they're 3-2 in the region, so they can make some noise. You can't take them lightly, anybody, because this Geraldine team is very good. So, our next game we want to talk about, we've got West End at 5. 5 is setting at 6-1 and 3-1 in the region. They beat Valley Head 48-0 Friday night, and man, I tell you, we always talk about Fife and how well they are, how well they play, and I tell you, Coach Benefield, they're just a well-oiled machine. They just keep clicking. It doesn't matter if it's raining, what's going on. They don't miss a beat. So, what's your thoughts on this Fife team?
I've had the opportunity to play against them, and I think one of the reasons they're so effective is because they know their roles so well. When they don't run that many plays, when they do, they run them out of different sets. It's the same play. But everything happens so fast. If you get caught up looking at your read too long, or you see someone blocking somewhere else, you've missed the ball. The ball's already gone. And as fast as those 5 running backs are, they're probably 40 yards down the field by the time you realize it.
Oh, yeah. One of the things I thought was real interesting, Dylan Kilpatrick, he had 2 carries, 2 touchdowns. And then also Kyle Collins, he rushed the ball 2 times, and he had 60 yards. So, you can, Dylan Kilpatrick, man, he has run wild all season. I think they probably just let him rest a little bit on Friday night. But, this Valley Head team is, they're young and struggling, but they'll get better. Coach Graham, he is a great coach and a great man, and I think he'll build this Valley Head team, and they'll have a winning program as they go forward. But, man, when you play Fife, it doesn't look pretty for anybody facing Fife, I'm telling you. So, Tyler Ashley had a 55-yard touchdown pass from Seth Benefield in the game, and this game was all Fife. I mean, it was it was 33-0 at halftime, I think, and so this Fife team, they just keep clicking. But this West End team, they're not bad, and they could give Fife a little trouble, but. I can't see this Fife team. I can't see them struggling against many people. The next team we want to talk about, and man, this is going to be another big game. You got Cleveland traveling to Ider. Ider, like we said, they lost to Collinsville 27-6, and Coach Tinker said, man, they are beat up. They started a lot of 10th graders and 9th graders on Friday night, and they lost their quarterback before the game started. And I'm not sure, I don't know what happened, but he didn't even start the game for them. Something happened, and so man, this Cleveland team's going to be coming to Ider, and this Cleveland team is tough. And the Gillen kid at quarterback, I noticed he had an 80-yard touchdown, and he had against Section, and he had a 64-yard touchdown, and I think he threw 2 touchdowns. So, Ider has got their hands full this week. What do you think about Ider? And
Ider has a very good running back in Jarrett Palmer, but like you said, they're beat up, and it's shown in the past couple of weeks. They've lost a couple that should have been a lot closer than what they were if they shouldn't have won. Yeah. Everybody expected a lot out of Ider, and the first half of the season, I feel like they delivered. but they're going to have to get some people healthy again and get back on that right track and start winning because their record is starting to hurt them now, and they're going to need more and more wins as the season goes out.
Yeah, they're sitting at 1-4 in the region, and man, they would have to win out to have any kind of shot at the playoffs. And I tell you, playing Cleveland this weekend, the shot for making the playoffs is not good having to face them this week. So hopefully they can get some of their players back and get healthy, and you never know. You don't know about these football games from week to week what's going to happen. So. Hopefully Ider will be healthy this week and have a chance to make some noise. So our next game, we got Section traveling to Cedar Bluff, and man, this is another team that needs a win bad. They're sitting at 0-7. They faced Cleveland last week and they lost that game 64-22. And but I tell you, looking at some of the stats, Section, one of the running backs, Dylan Cooper, had an 84-yard touchdown run against Cleveland. So that's a pretty big bright spot. Dusty Martin scored on an 18-yard run, and then Seth Akins had a 20-yard touchdown pass from their quarterback, and I think that's Austin Lands, I believe is his name. So Section did move the ball a little bit, but boy, I tell you, they are struggling. They're when you're in this region with Fife and Cleveland, and you're gonna struggle, and Collinsville actually. So it's a tough region. So what's your thoughts on this Section team? And then they're facing a great Cedar Bluff team this week too.
Well, I think we just need to schedule a Section Crossville game. That way we'll make sure one of them has one by the end of the season. But like you said, this is a very good Cedar Bluff team, and especially for 2A, that region is a very hard region because you have a lot of those teams like Fife and Cleveland. They're up competing with 3A teams and they're winning.
Yeah.
So especially for them to be able to play up an area and win like that, it's even harder for a team that's a little down this year to compete with them.
Right.
And it showed in Section this year.
Yeah. This Cedar Bluff team, they're a 1A, but I think they're ranked about 4th in the state. They're sitting at 7-0, so they've got a great football team, and so it's gonna be a hard, rough night for Section, I'm afraid. But again, you can't tell from week to week. The next game we want to talk about, we've got North Sand Mountain versus Pisgah, and this should be a great football game. North Sand Mountain, they lost to New Hope 17-7, which sounded like it was a pretty good ball game. They're sitting at 4-3 and 4-1 in the region, and if they can win out, they're going to get to play at home in the first round of the playoffs. So, this is a big game, and, we talked about Pisgah. Pisgah's got a chance, if they can win out and maybe one of the other schools lose, Geraldine or Plainview, if which one of them will lose because they're going to play each other. But, they've still got a shot of making the playoffs. So what's your thoughts on what North Sand Mountain needs to do and what Pisgah needs to do to make the playoffs?
Well, Pisgah's quarterback he's a very good quarterback. He's a passing quarterback, and he makes smart throws, and he's going to have to do that against North Sand Mountain. I can think of a couple ball games where he really brought them back late and made a couple of deep throws and completed them. When Pisgah played Plainview, Pisgah was moving the ball pretty well. They had too many turnovers, and they had a chance to win it at the end, but they ended up turning the ball over. This North Sand team is very good. They're very well coached. They have a great screen game. Their defense plays really well, too. I was surprised at that. They swarm to the ball and they game tackle. Plus, this is a huge rivalry for both of these schools. This is basically their rivalry week. I would say it's the equivalent of Plainview Fife. That's how much these teams want to play each other.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game. Aldi Smothers for Pisgah, he was 6 of 10 for 63 yards, and you look at that and you say, well, that's not that great. But when you look at the weather, when you can complete 6 passes, that's pretty good on a Friday night like we had this last Friday night. Jordan Jeffrey rushed for 152 yards on 12 carries, and I think he was our Mountain Valley News Player of the Week this week. So we want to congratulate him on the great game he had. And I tell you, it's this is going to be a good football game. This would be one of those that if you got a chance to go watch, it would be a great game to watch. So North Sand Mountain. The George kid, he keeps just playing. He is tough. He plays great. He was 14 of 23 for 96 yards, and I think he rushed for 50 yards on about 2 carries. So, this will be a good ball game. Like I said, North Sand Mountain pretty much has got a lock in the playoffs, I think, but Pisgah has got, they've got a chance. And if they can upset North Sun Mountain this week, if you want to call it an upset, they've got a chance to make some noise and get in the playoffs. So, that'll be a great game. Again, it's just I tell you, we're at the point of the season now where, things are going to start shaking out, and, we're going to see how these playoff pictures start shaking out, and, we still have several teams that's got a chance of making the playoffs. So it's going to be fun to watch. We've talked about these games now, and, no, we haven't. We want to talk we got a couple of college games we want to talk about if we've got time. We got Florida's going to be traveling to LSU. Both teams are undefeated. That's going to be a great football game. And, LSU's got the great running back, and Florida is playing. I think maybe Florida's playing over their head. I'm not sure. And then the other game, we've got Alabama traveling to Texas A&M. And boy, I tell you what, that's going to be a barn burner. Texas A&M, they spread the ball. They run the spread offense, and if there's a weak point for Alabama, that's it. The spread offense with a quarterback that can run or pass, it can make it tough. So those are the games we got on tap this week. And, at this time, we've got our guest picker this week. He is one of our sponsors, Jason Barnett, and he is a Republican candidate for superintendent of education. Good to see you, Jason. Glad you could be with us today.
It's great to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate you inviting me, and also I appreciate what you do for our local schools. Having a program like this, it means a lot to the student athletes as well as the communities that they represent, because those communities kind of gather around the school, and it's a great opportunity for them.
Well, tell us a little bit, if we've got time, just talk a little bit about why you're running for superintendent, and just tell us a little bit about that.
I'm very excited to be running for superintendent, Monk. We've had I've been in education for several years, and I've just kind of, this is something I've wanted to do for a little while now, and we've been very encouraged by the response we've received, and I've been talking to a lot of folks, and I encourage you to check out my Facebook at Barnett for Superintendent. My website is drjasonbarnett.com, drjasonbarnett.com. I've been meeting a lot of folks and hope to meet you soon to share my vision for our schools with you. As always, you feel free to call me at 256-717-3558 if you would like to talk with me before I have a chance to get to your community.
Well, it's great to have you on today, and what we do now is, we're just going to go down the list and pick the games, and since you're our guest, we're going to let you pick first. This is the way we do it each week, so we're going to start out. We got Collinsville traveling to Gaston. Who you going to pick in this one, Jason?
Well, Collinsville, that's where I work at, and I've been able to watch them several times this week. Last week versus Ider, I noticed Logan here picked Ider to upset my Collinsville Panthers, but this week I'm going to go with Collinsville. I think that Coach Willingham does a great job with them. He works them hard. The line is a large line, but we've got several skilled players that can do a good job. I'm going with Collinsville.
All right. Who you got in this one, Logan?
I'm going to have to pick against Collinsville again. I'm sorry. I'm going with Gaston.
Oh, I'll tell you what. This Collinsville team, they're playing really good. They've got 2 or 3 running backs that can they can haul the hay, as you say. Absolutely. And so I tell you what, I'm going with Collinsville. I think this Collinsville team is the real deal, and like I said, Ernie Willingham has done a great job. So I'm picking Collinsville. Our next game, we got Gardendale traveling to Fort Payne. Who you got in this one, Jason?
Coach Ellis always does a great job. I'm going with Fort Payne.
I'm going to have to pick Fort Payne as well. That offense has just been too much for anybody to handle.
Yeah, I'm going with Fort Payne too. I think they do have a little revenge on their mind this week, and I think they'd love to beat this Gardendale team after getting upset last year. So I'm picking Fort Payne. Our next game, we got Plainview traveling over to Brindley Mountain. Who you got in this one?
Plainview started out slow, but the last several weeks they've turned it on. I'm going to say they're going to make it 5 in a row. I'm going with Plainview.
Logan?
I agree with him. I see Plainview just keeping that momentum going, and I don't feel like Brindley Mountain's a strong enough team to stop them.
Yeah. I think this week is that Plainview's I think this will be a big game for Plainview, and I'm picking Plainview all the way in this one. Our next game, we've got White Plains at Crossville. Who you got in this one, Jason?
White Plains has been very down this year. Crossville's been down as well. I think that I got the opportunity to watch Crossville's junior varsity play. The Crossville has some real athletes coming up. I think the future is going to be a lot better for them than it has been in the last couple of years. I think they get their first win of the season this Friday night.
All right. Logan?
I'm going to have to go with White Plains. I see them getting their second of the season, and I mean, I hope Crossville turns it around. I hope Crossville comes up with a win, but I'm gonna have to go with White Plains.
Yeah, man, I would love to see Crossville get a win, and we talked about this last week, and I talked about how I'd like to see them get that first win, and I would love to pick them, but I'm gonna have to go with White Plains. I just feel like this Crossville team. I hope they prove me wrong this week, but I'm afraid they won't. So, our next game we got Geraldine traveling to Sylvania. Who you got in this one?
I think it'll be a hard-fought game. I think it'll probably come down to the wire, but I think Geraldine ends up with the victory at the end.
Logan?
We always talk about Sylvania and their turnover troubles, but they fixed that against Plainview. They didn't really have any turnovers that I can remember, but I still feel like this Geraldine team is just too big and too strong for the Sylvania Rams.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is going to be a great football game. Sylvania's defense, man, they came on against Plainview, and they're playing at home, and they need a victory. So, I struggle with this one, but I'm going with Geraldine. I think you're right. The offense, I think, may be just a little too much for Sylvania. But, again, I've said this several times, it wouldn't surprise me if Sylvania won this game. So, our next game, we got West End traveling to 5. Who you got in this one?
I think that's a no-brainer. I think 5 wins big.
Yeah. Logan?
Same as last week. I'm going to have to go with 5.
Yeah, I'm going with 5. I tell you, this 5 team, and they've got a great football team, and like we said, they're on a mission to prove everybody that, hey, we are still state champs. And so I think 5 wins big this week. Our next game, we got Cleveland going to Ider. Who you got in this one?
Well, I've had the chance to watch Cleveland this year. They've got a lot of athletes. The quarterback is, whose name eludes me, but he is the real deal. He's got an arm. He can run. He's a leader on the field and off the field. Cleveland's going to be mighty tough competition against a scrappy Ider team, but Cleveland wins.
Yeah. Logan?
We talked about Ider's injuries, and I don't feel like they're healthy enough to compete in this game. If we look at Ider at the start of the season, I think that team probably could have competed, but I'm going to have to pick Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm going with Cleveland too. I think this Ider team, they're just so beat up right now, and even with a healthy team, it would be a tough game. But I'm picking Cleveland. I think they'll beat Ider this week. Our next game, we got Jacksonville Christian traveling to Valley Head. Who you got in this one?
Well, I think it'll be I did a little research on both of these teams, and I think that this is a week that Valley Head can actually get a win this week. I think Valley Head will do pretty well this week.
All right. Logan, who you got in this one?
We talk about Valley Head. They're extremely young. They're probably the youngest team around, but that'll help them. There'll be an advantage in years to come, but I don't think it's going to help them that much this year, and I'm going to have to go with Jacksonville Christian.
Yeah, I'm going with Jacksonville Christian too. I think this should be a great game, and I think Valley Head can play with them. But I don't know. It's one of those gut feelings. I think Jacksonville Christian is going to get the win this week. Our next game, we got Section traveling to Cedar Bluff. Who you got in this one?
Well, I had the opportunity to watch Cedar Bluff earlier this year. Cedar Bluff always has a lot of skilled players, a lot of speed, a lot of just good athletes. Cedar Bluff's going to win this one.
Logan?
I want to agree with him there. I feel like this Section team struggled this year, and I don't feel like they have the depth to compete with them. So I'm going to pick Cedar Bluff.
Yeah, I'm going with Cedar Bluff too. I tell you, just like Jason said, this Cedar Bluff team is always good, and they're sitting at 7-0 right now, and I think they're going to make it 8-0 this week. So I'm going with Cedar Bluff. Our next game, we got North Sand Mountain versus Pisgah. Who you got in this one?
Well, I watched North Sand Mountain play earlier this season. They had some turnovers, had some issues. Pisgah, I haven't gotten to watch yet, but I think North Sand Mountain wins.
Logan?
I'm going to have to go with the Bison. They've helped me out with my picks all year, so I can't pick against them.
All right, well, I'm stepping out on a limb this week. I have picked against North Sand Mountain every week, but I'm going with the Bisons this week. I'm picking North Sand Mountain to win this game. I think, they've got a great football team, and Pisgah has a great football team, but this will be a great game, but I'm picking North Sand Mountain to win. Our next game, we got Florida versus LSU. Who you got in this one?
It'll be a great game. Leonard Fournette in his Heisman bid. I don't think that Florida can stop him, and so I say LSU wins.
Logan?
I'm going to pick LSU as well. We talk about Florida, and what comes to mind this year with Florida, typically you think of an offense, but their defense has been playing great, but I don't see them stopping Fournette.
Yeah, I'm going with LSU too. This will be a great football game, but I think LSU might be playing over their head a little bit. So our last game, we got Alabama at Texas A&M. Who you got in this one?
Alabama.
Logan?
I think Alabama's coming out of College Station with a win this week.
Yeah, I'm going with Alabama too. I tell you, this defense is playing great, and Texas A&M, they've got a great football team, but I dare say they haven't played a defense like Alabama's going to put on the field on Saturday. So I'm going with Bama all the way on that one. Well, we've picked them, we've talked about them, and it's fun. And I hope you guys will get out this week and go watch some high school football games and watch some college football games. And we appreciate you being here each week and watching us. And I'm Monk Blevins. This is Jason Barnett and Logan Wright, and we'll see you guys next week.